Hello, and welcome to Work Your Passion, a podcast dedicated to creativity and passion. I'm your host, Rocco Jeppy. I want you to be inspired. I want to ignite your creative spark. I want to fuel your passion. Listen, learn, create. Work Your Passion is a different kind of podcast, a different kind of conversation. I'm extremely excited to begin this show and share with you my passion, telling the stories of others, the stories of creatives. My guests include authors, podcasters, artists, science writers, small business owners, and many more. Each one of them will share their creativeness with us and not only give insight into their process, but also what drives them, their passion. Now, I'm sure you're wondering how I came up with the topic for this podcast, and I'm going to tell you. The process of choosing the theme started just over a year ago. However, I've toyed with the idea of starting my own podcast for about 3 years. You see, I do a weekly podcast for my day job, with about 60 episodes released to date, and I enjoy it. The interview process takes me back to my days as a freelance journalist. Sure, I enjoy writing sports and covering the Baltimore Orioles and Baltimore Ravens, the former of which I've cheered for since before I could walk. But the features, the human interest stories, those are what I lived for as a freelancer. Being able to take the words and vulnerabilities people shared with me, to have them let me into their lives, and then put it all into an article for the world to see. I was very fortunate to have those experiences. It was an amazing feeling and honored responsibility. And to be completely honest, I missed it. I missed being a conduit that championed the triumphs, traditions, family ties, remarkable acts of overcoming adversity. I missed the conversations, the connections, and the lessons. I missed spreading happiness and showing the world how one person can truly make a difference. I've also come to learn that I enjoy the process of producing a podcast, especially post-production. I've taught myself Adobe Premiere Pro, Audacity, Audition, and other editing software. And I'm not sure exactly how to explain this, but I just love editing. I love listening to my interviews and picking out teaser clips, deciding what stays and what goes. And spoiler alert, not much ends up on the cutting room floor. I love examining the interviews, using them to guide my mission in newsletter content. Oh yeah, I have a newsletter. If you're a subscriber, you already know this. If you're not, well, I'll tell you a little bit later about how you can become one. But let's get back to my story about the theme. Over the last few years, I've also become more active on social media, mainly Twitter. I began engaging with and learning a lot from many creative people. Writers, podcasters, artists, well, you heard me at the beginning of the episode, creatives. We have great conversations on a variety of topics, and I was fascinated by just how many people were so creative and passionate in what they do. I know authors that have published multiple books while married, working a full-time job, and with children. I met a military retiree that writes fantasy steampunk. I know people that have battled anxiety and depression and use it safely to drive their artistic endeavors. A woman reached out to me to talk about going from a high-performance athlete to an acting and singing career. And there are so many more of these types of examples and people out there. They've also helped me realize just how creative I am as well, how my critical thinking and process improvement abilities are not just meant to help me in my day job. So I decided this podcast was going to be about creativity because we all use it in one form or another and do so in different ways. And passion because it's the driving force, the force that propels us to keep working at it even when we're tired or think we're not going to make any money from it. Creativity and passion can be a gateway to joy and happiness. If we make money, great. But if not, isn't being happy enough? I think so. With my theme in hand, I spoke to a few people about being guests. And after I booked a couple, I then took to social media once again and I posted a casting call of sorts, calling for creatives and small business owners interested in being on my show. I'd hoped to get about 10 to 12 people because being that I work full-time, this is going to be a monthly podcast, and that many people would at least get me through year one. What happened was amazing. I received interested direct messages from nearly 30 people, all sorts of creatives from the aforementioned group to indie publishers, yoga studio owners, stage performers, a former Olympic athlete, editors, illustrators, painters, broadcasters. I was blown away. And what's more is they're from 12 different states and 6 different countries. 6 different countries, and they wanted to be on my show. It was all happening. Now I just needed a name. I'll admit, I filled up probably an entire sheet of paper in one of my trusty marble composition notebooks drafting early name possibilities. One day I was sitting on my front porch and I turned to my wife and said, "Work your passion." She had an inquisitive look on her face because what I'd said had just come out of left field and was not related to anything we had been talking about previously. My podcast, I told her, I'm going to call it Work Your Passion. The more I thought about it, it was the perfect name. The mission and purpose of the podcast is to show how creativity can spark that fire within, help others tap into their creativeness to earn more from their passion, and celebrate creatives that are setting the world on fire. Creatives are a part of a larger community than we realize. I want you to see this, experience it, and join the revolution, a creative revolution, a term coined by one of my guests, so I guess you'll just have to listen to learn more. I can't wait to share with you the awesome individuals I've spoken with so far. I was off for more than 2 weeks during the holidays, and in that time I conducted the first 7 interviews, and wow. I don't say this enough, but I'm proud of myself. Not because I think I'm the best interviewer since James Lipton, who, if you don't know, you will become very familiar with through my episodes, but because each conversation is so unique and authentic in its own right. Some of the questions are the same, but none of the answers follows the same path. It's been quite an experience and an honor to speak to them. Their words are uncensored. Their messages and wisdom will make you laugh, cry, and eager. Eager for what? To work your passion. I could go on and on, but I promised myself that I would keep this introduction under 10 minutes. Episode 1 is scheduled to drop on January 31st. A very special day as it's the new moon. But not just any new moon, the second new moon of January 2022. And leading off this journey is a writer, podcaster, and researcher with a PhD in social science. I'm so grateful to have Kendra Patterson help kick off the Work Your Passion podcast. But that's all the information you get for now. To learn more, subscribe to my newsletter where I'll summarize each interview before it drops, and you'll be the first to know when new episodes release. You can subscribe by clicking the link in the introduction episode. You can also follow me on Twitter at WorkYourPassion, spelled WORKYUR Passion, or on Instagram at WorkYourPassion_, and click the link in bio. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear about the show. I'm looking forward to sharing my passion and the stories of amazing people with you. So long, and be well.